Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Liva Magbemi. In this video, I'll be sharing with you the roadmap I took to become a web developer and why you should not follow that roadmap. And I'm also going to show you a better roadmap to follow to become a web developer and build strong foundation in web development. So the reason for this video is because this is a new year and a lot of people want to learn new skills, so that's why I'm making this video for anybody who wants to become a web developer. Now, this video is not just for beginners coming into web development. If you are already in web development, this video can be beneficial to you, especially if you are still on your web development journey. So if you are still learning and you are not yet an advanced developer, this video can allow you to reorder your steps and um, make some adjustments that can be beneficial to you. So you don't want to miss any part of this video. You need to watch to the end. All right, so I'm going to show you the roadmap I took right away in the next slide. All right, so this is the roadmap I took to become a web developer, and this is the roadmap I don't want you to take. So I started with HTML, which is the first technology all developers, all web developers start with. So I'm going to mention the names of all these technologies. I have their picture here. So if you're a beginner, don't worry about that. Once you start your web development journey, you are going to understand these technologies and what they do. But I'm also going to talk about them a bit in some couple of slides after this slide. So I started with HTML and then I moved to CSS and then to JavaScript, to CSS Framework, Bootstrap, and Tailwind. I learned SAS, which is a CSS Preprocessor. I learned Git and GitHub for version control, which allows you to track your code and collaborate with other developers. So I also learned Vue.js, which is a front-end framework. And then I moved to the back-end part of web development. And I learned Node.js, which is a JavaScript runtime, MongoDB, which is a NoSQL database, and I learned Express, which is a framework for building APIs. So if you are an advanced developer, you might be wondering what's wrong with this roadmap, because this is a decent roadmap. So this is a roadmap you can follow. But in the next slide, I'm going to show you the roadmap you should follow. And after then, I'm going to share with you the reasons why this roadmap is not the best roadmap to take. So this is the roadmap I will advise you to take. So start by learning HTML and CSS, but then don't learn JavaScript right away. So learn CSS Preprocessor first, and then learn CSS Framework, and learn Git and GitHub. Then you can learn JavaScript Framework. Then if you want to become a full stack developer, you can move to the back-end aspect of web development. But if you want to become a front-end developer, then you need to move from HTML to front-end frameworks, and then you can stop there and continue exploring other technologies, libraries in web development. But if you want to become a full stack developer, so a full stack developer is a developer who knows how to build both front end and back end applications. So there are two sides of web development, um, front end web development and back end web development. So this is the roadmap I want you to take. Now I'm going to go over each of these technologies one after the other, and I'm going to share with you the reason why you should learn one before the other. So the first technology you should take in your journey of becoming a web developer is HTML. So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, as you can see here, and it is not a programming language. It's just a markup language for building the structure of a website, of a web page. So the buttons, the tables, the text, they are all HTML elements. And once you start learning this technology, you understand all what I've been saying in this video. So then you need to learn CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheet, and it's used for layouting and beautification of websites. So CSS can be used to change the color, size of typography, and the layouting of a web page to make it more friendly, more user friendly. Okay. Now we have CSS Preprocessor. So after learning CSS, you should learn CSS Preprocessor even before learning a CSS framework. Now a framework is something that makes the actual language itself much more easier. So using CSS framework is easier than using CSS itself. But the reason why you should learn CSS before moving to CSS framework is that to use CSS frameworks, you need to have some understanding of CSS. So why should you learn CSS preprocessor before learning CSS frameworks? So CSS preprocessor brings in advanced concepts to CSS. And the reason why you should learn it is because after learning it, you get a good grasp of the underlying principles of CSS. So you can write efficient and maintainable CSS without using a CSS framework, without relying on a CSS framework. So for CSS preprocessors, we have SAS, LESS, Stylus, and other CSS preprocessors, but these three are the most popular, and out of them, SAS is the most popular, and I will recommend you go for it. So if you want to learn CSS preprocessor, you can learn SAS, and you can always come back after following this roadmap to the end to learn the others. So, but you should learn and master one first before moving to the others. Okay, so that's it for CSS preprocessor. It allows you to write a more powerful CSS. That's why it's called a preprocessor. So it's an extension of CSS that extends beyond the capabilities of CSS. So with CSS preprocessors, you have concepts like function, mixing, nesting, and variables, and also conditioners. So CSS preprocessor is what you should learn after learning CSS. And then you can move to CSS frameworks. So we have Bootstrap, Tailwind CSS, Bomber, Materialize, and Skeleton. So these are just few CSS frameworks. There are a lot of them out there, but I just decided to mention few of them. And Bootstrap and Tailwind are the top CSS frameworks. So you should consider learning one of them. So CSS frameworks allows you to use classes and predefined components for building your UI instead of writing plain CSS. So after learning CSS preprocessors, once you learn CSS framework, we are going to realize one of the benefits of learning CSS preprocessors first before a framework, because most CSS frameworks uses CSS preprocessors like SAS and LESS for their utility classes under the hood. So then following this roadmap is a much more better and efficient way of learning web development. So between Bootstrap and CSS, which are the top two frameworks, which should you learn? Now you have to consider the size of your project. You have to consider how long you want to spend to develop the project, and you also want to consider efficiency. So Bootstrap offers more predefined components, so components that you can use to develop your UI very fast. So if you want to develop a UI, a project very fast, Bootstrap is a good choice. But Bootstrap is less customizable, so um, doesn't offer much customization compared to Tailwind CSS. So Tailwind CSS have a lot of utility classes that allows you to customize um, your project UI to what you want, and it's also lighter than Bootstrap. So those are the things you want to consider when trying to pick either of these frameworks. But my advice is that you should learn the two. So you can learn Bootstrap and then after learn Tailwind, or learn Tailwind and then learn Bootstrap, whichever way you choose to go. And then you can move to version control system. Now, a lot of people learn a programming language like JavaScript before learning version control system. And the reason why you should learn version control system first and not to learn JavaScript like I did is because version control system is used for tracking your code. So learning it on time allows you to build a good habit of implementing it into your project. Learning it on time is a way of promoting good habits of using version control system to track your code. So any changes you made on your code, version control system, which is Git. So Git is a version control system, allows you to track your code and see the changes you have made. You can revert changes if you want to on your local computer. But if you want to take this code outside your local computer, that's where GitHub comes in. So GitHub is a remote version control system that allows you to manage your code. It allows you to manage your code and collaborate with other developers. So that's the work of GitHub. So you should learn a version control system first before learning JavaScript. So then you can move to JavaScript, which is a programming language for adding interactions to your HTML and CSS. So this is just to add interactions if your web page is not yet dynamic with JavaScript alone. So to build dynamic applications, you have to use backend technologies like Node.js, which is also JavaScript but a runtime. And then you can move to front-end framework. So we have front-end framework that allows you to manage data efficiently and write more maintainable JavaScript code. So we have React, Angular, Vue, Svelte, and Ember.js. So Angular, React, and Vue, as you can see here, I have a picture of these three frameworks on the left. They are the top three front-end frameworks. So you should consider learning one of them. So React is very popular and it has higher demand than any of these frameworks here, to my experience. So you want to look at jobs in your area, and again, probably your goal of learning web development is not to get a job. Maybe you want to build something. You want to check um, which of these framework could be more easier for you to work with. So, but it's good you should have understanding of at least two of this framework, but you can learn one and go to the end of your journey and then come back to explore the other. So that's my advice for you. So don't try to learn everything first before moving to backend if you want to become a full stack developer. So if you want to be a front-end developer, after learning any of these framework, you can stop and continue exploring the rest without going to backend technologies. So we have two sides of web development, front-end web development and backend web development. And front-end web development deals with what the user sees and interacts with. So all the visual aspects of a web app, that's front end. Then things that goes on behind the scene like authentication, database management, back end development. And then finally, if you want to be a full stack developer, meaning if you are a developer that writes front end code and back end code, you are a full stack developer. So we have some backend technologies here for web development like Node.js, which is not a programming language, it's a JavaScript runtime. The programming language itself is JavaScript, but a runtime, a JavaScript runtime. So that's one of the biggest advantage of using Node.js for backend because you don't have to switch to a different programming language. You are writing JavaScript. You just have to learn some new concepts of JavaScript that is being used in backend. So we also have Python, which you can use with framework like Django and Flask, which is used for web development. We have PHP and PHP is popularly known for using Laravel, and we have Ruby and Java. So my advice is to go with Node. If you already know JavaScript, learn Node.js because you are not going to switch language, and Node.js is much faster in web development compared to this other programming languages. So it allows you to build more efficient APIs. And so you need a database to work with any of these programming languages if you are building a backend for your web app. So for Node actually goes with this other two technologies, Express, which is a framework for building APIs, and MongoDB, which is a NoSQL database. So, but for Python, you can also use MongoDB, but you can also use something like SQL. So we'll have other databases which you can use for your applications, but Node is popularly known for working with these other technologies. So that's what I want to share with you guys. I hope you enjoy this video. I hope this video benefits you a lot, and thank you. I'll see you next time.